Hi, this is a special issue of Redaction Context. On Friday, from Max Security Colony Polar Wolf, from a village Kharp in Yamal district, we received a message about death of Alexei Navalny. He was sent to the colony on the northern outskirts of Russia in December of last year, when he got another sentencing on another criminal prosecution initiated by Putin's cronies, and conditions of his life in prison were hardened. According to Federal Penitentiary Service, today during the day walk, Navalny felt bad, and emergency services were called into prison, and after half an hour of resuscitation attempts, they declared death. Despite of his being in jail, Navalny remained a most active politician in Russia, fighting Putin's regime, and his death became a very loud news in the whole world. We gathered everything that is known for now about the circumstances of his death, last days of his life, and chronology of his death. Prisoner Navalny felt bad after a walk, almost immediately losing consciousness. All the necessary medical resuscitation activities were carried out. Unfortunately, they did not bring any result. This message was published at 2:19 p.m. Moscow time by press service of Federal Penitentiary Service of Yamal district. As they confirmed in a hospital in Lobotnanga, it took 7 minutes for medics to arrive to penitentiary facility, and later the hospital clarified that they have driven from a smaller branch of that hospital, which is in the same village where the colony itself is. And medics tried to resuscitate Navalny for about 30 minutes. One of the first to speak out about this event was his attorney, Leonid Solovyev. He is not commenting anything according to his statement, due to the decision by his family. I visited Navalny on Wednesday. Everything was all right back then. Indeed, on the 15th of February, Alexei Navalny participated on a video link in court proceedings of Khabarovsky court, and there is a recording of that. That's where a politician is ironizing, smiling, and nothing is telling about his bad health. In press service of a district court, news agencies got message that politician was active, defending himself and explaining his position. Your Honor, I can send you the number of my account, so you, with your big salary of a federal judge, can deduce that I do not have much on it. The source of Russia Today published that it was a thrombosis, a thromb that caused his death. According to Alexander Polupan, who is a rheumatology doctor who was resuscitating Navalny in Omsk after his poisoning in August of 2020, the diagnosis of pulmonary embolism could not be declared without a proper research, proper investigation into that reason, which we know did not happen. And the reason of his heart stoppage that was declared by the medics who were at the location, who were trying to resuscitate Navalny. So it is impossible to really use the diagnosis of a pulmonary embolism because it won't be unknown until the autopsy. And everything that you hear until then is just manipulation of facts and speculation. According to words of ex-employee of Penitentiary Service Anna Karetnikova, the diagnosis of detached blood clot, thrombosis, is very common, if not to say universal. According to her opinion, that diagnosis of pulmonary embolism is difficult to prove. That is what he wrote in her post. Pulmonary embolism is the name of a disease that is used, at least by prison doctors, as a blanket term. Why did the sick person die? Well, they'll still write embolism. Who will go investigate? Navalny's colleagues said they have no confirmed data about his death. According to Kira Yermash, his attorney flew to Kharp village in Yamal district where he was being held. Leonid Volkov left this commentary about his death. We have no data to believe government propaganda. They lied, they're lying, they will continue to lie. If that is truth, then it's not Navalny died, it's Putin killed Navalny, and only so. But I do not trust them for even 1 cent. Don't rush to bury him. Director of Anti-Corruption Fund Ivan Zhdanov said that by process, Navalny's relatives have to be informed within a day by the colony admin if these news are correct. But these notifications have never arrived, have never been made. That's why he called upon everybody to cease calling to his relatives, especially to his mother. And Lyudmila Navalnaya commented this news on the page of hers on Facebook. She said, "I do not want to hear condolences." It's interesting that after her post became viral in media, journalists paid attention that the settings on this post were private, confidential. only for her friends, and was not intended for public dissemination. Navalny's wife, with a delegation of fund for fighting the corruption, were making statements on the conference in Munich on the international security. And when the news arrived, she said that she does not know if to believe or not to this horrible news. If indeed it is true, I want Putin, all his cronies surrounding him, all his friends, his government, knew that they will bear responsibility for what they have done with our country, with my family, and with my husband. They will bear full responsibility. The guests of Munich conference, well-known Western politicians, made their first comments. Alexei Navalny was a strong voice for freedom and democracy over many years. NATO and the allies were calling to his liberation for a long time already. Our thoughts are with his family and his close ones. Joe Biden also made his statement about Navalny's death. He blamed Russian powers for that event, and he said that the United States are reviewing ways to harden sanctions against Moscow. If to believe notes from several channels and media, Vladimir Putin was told rather quickly about Navalny's death. That happened at the time when he was visiting a press forging plant. And during his meetings with employees, there were no questions about Navalny. Putin himself refused to comment this news. It was Dmitry Peskov who came out to comment on this, and answering the question if it is true that blood clot became the reason of his death, and Putin's press secretary said that he does not know. We're acting according with all the proper rules, and we're conducting investigations of what happened. There are no special needs and orders need to be made. They're just following the procedures. In his Telegram channel, Speaker of Russian Congress Vyacheslav Volodin accused the West, collective West, in the death of Navalny. I blame Washington and Brussels in the death of Navalny. Medical experts will determine the exact cause, but we know all the culprits from General Secretary of NATO to President of the United States, Scholz, Sumak, and Zelensky, who were making a lot of wrong decisions and grasping onto their positions. They all benefit from his death. In her turn, representative of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia, Maria Zakharova, commented the situation in the following way. Immediate reaction of NATO countries' leaders to Navalny's death by direct accusations towards Russia is self-revealing. We do not have coroner's report yet, but the West already has conclusions. Federal media in Russia were dry in commenting on the death of the politician. On the first channel of a talk show Big Game, politologist Vyacheslav Nikonov from the studio channel screen and then from his mobile phone read the message by Penitentiary Service but did not leave any comments, and finished the program by reminding about fights near Avdiivka. On NTV channel, the host Norkin actually interrupted one of his guests when representative of Yabloko party was trying to express his condolences and hoping that perhaps it will lead to liberating more of the political prisoners. The news about Navalny's death went around the globe quickly. The host of a British TV channel, Sky News, interrupted his newscast within flash news.
Jailed Russian opposition politician Alexei Navalny. He is now dead.
The penitentiary colony number 3 in the village Kharp, which became the last place of confinement for Alexei Navalny, is one of the northernmost and most remote. Besides other things, Platon Lebedev, partner of Khodorkovsky, who was going on the Yukos criminal investigation, actually spent some time there. It's difficult to properly gauge the medical proficiency of doctors in this colony, but doctors who were doing resuscitation, they said that it can hardly be called adequate. Several times from the medical community, we turned with demands to provide proper medical care to Alexei while he is in jail, which very often was not provided according to the documents that we could have access to. Overall, public pressure was there to make sure that Putin would be providing some medical aid to Alexei, but the usual situation ensued that medical support was very scarce. According to civil rights defenders, since August of 22, Alexei Navalny was punished 27 times by being sent to a punishment cell. This was in Vladimir district in Kharp. Among other reasons for that punishment was unbuttoned top button on the shirt and refusal to wash the fence. Combined, he spent 308 days in different punishment cells. Now, according to the words of Ombudsman of Yamal district, Andrei Nesteruk, said that Alexei was not complaining about the terms of his imprisonment in the last colony. I think that in reality, the number of his placement into punishment cells could not have played a role. He was there at least 27 times. In the beginning, when medics were determining the maximum time for a person of being there, they actually took into consideration that being in such a cell was very harmful for a human organism. That's why a person cannot be sent for longer than 15 days. Why? I would remind you, because you cannot take your warm clothes, food, no personal items, there is no TV, no fridge, nothing in there. In the August of 2020, Alexei Navalny felt ill on the plane that was flying from Tomsk to Moscow. The plane made an emergency landing in Tomsk, where doctors, reanimatologists saved his life. Then he was rehabilitated in Germany, where he stayed till January of 21. And according to first German powers authorities and then to international investigative organs, politician was poisoned by Novichok, neuroparalytic agent. On the 17th of January 2021, Alexei and Yulia Navalny, joined by press secretary of Fund Anti-Corruption, Kira Yarmash, returned back to Moscow. A lot of seats on this plane were bought out by journalists, and the plane landed not as planned in Vnukovo, but in Sheremetyevo airport. On a passport control, he was met by police and was detained immediately. Next day, there was a court that determined that Navalny should be arrested for 30 days, and he has never seen freedom since then. Closer to evening, we started to get media from different cities of Russia, where people were bringing flowers to different memorial locations. In Moscow, it's Solovetsky Stone, a monument to the victims of political repressions. Police is there, and they do not prohibit people from putting flowers. An ambassador of EU to Russia was also sighted at this location. In Tomsk, Kazan, Novosibirsk, and other cities in Russia, people are bringing flowers. Prosecutor's office of Moscow warned about participating in unsanctioned events in capital and warned about bearing responsibility for that. Also, meetings in Alexei Navalny's memory are being held in different world capitals, often near the buildings of Russian embassies and consulates.